Hi, welcome to the Meeting of Minds podcast. I'm Philippa. Today, I've got a great guest for you. Today, I'm talking to Birgit Livesey, and Birgit is the creator and host of the Living on the B-Side podcast, which I've had the pleasure of being a guest on. So now I'm turning the tables a little bit, and Birgit's here to be my guest and tell us more about her story, her podcast. And, you know, any of you who are regular listeners will know this conversation could go anywhere. So first of all, let's say hi to Birgit. Hi.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Philippa. Thanks so much for having me on your wonderful podcast.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's great to have you here. I really enjoyed coming on your podcast and talking to you about music and all the fabulous things that we talked about there. But of course, you're here today to talk about your podcast. And, you know, we'll see where this conversation goes because, you know, we've got an idea where it's going to go, but we'll see. So can you tell us about your podcast, which is amazing, Living on the B-Side?
Yeah, sure. Well, Living on the B-Side, like you said, is a podcast that is all about music, people, and stories. So it's all about the power of music it has in our lives, the amazing stories and moments and experiences that can happen through and with music, and it's absolutely incredible. The stories that come out of just maybe an artist or a song or a piece of music that's been created by somebody else but has impacted one person in particular. So that's in a nutshell what the podcast is all about. It's not just about me talking to other people. I also do solo episodes about my experiences from the past, present, and hopefully what I hope for the future as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've listened to a lot of episodes now, and it is really interesting hearing how evocative music is for people. Obviously, individual pieces of music. And I was listening to, I think it was the latest episode or the one before that, where somebody actually met the artist who, you know, sang the song that was really special to them. And that was really amazing to hear their story as well. So music brings us a lot, doesn't it? How did you come up with the idea, or why did you start your podcast? How did it all sort of come about?
Right, we've got to rewind a little bit. A few years back, probably around 2016, and this is some people might call this a little bit spiritual or woo-woo, but I woke up one morning and all I thought about was living on the B-side. I had no idea where it came from, no idea what to do with it, and thought, okay, well, what do I do with this thing now? So I put it like on a mental shelf because I thought this sounds really cool. And then as time went on a little bit, I realized, well, it's got two meanings. One is the B-side of a record, which, you know, is sometimes not the side we used to listen to. For anyone that does listen to vinyls, they come back in fashion now.
Yeah.
And the other side that sprung up to me was B-side, because a lot of my friends call me B, which is easier than Birgit or Birgit. And living on the B-side, I thought, there is something there, because I, at that point in time, went through the phase of discovering that I'm an introvert, and it always felt like I was living on the B side of life. Yeah. And then it just clicked. So that's how it was actually a blog. It wasn't a podcast to start off with. So it was a personal blog that then came into a podcast. So that's basically the beginning of it.
That's amazing. And I'm all for a bit of woo. I mean, I'm actually really quite woo, but I'm not. I'm learning to let the woo side out more. I think that is amazing, the message, living on the B-side. And I remember when you said to me about the B-side of records and things like that, it really made sense. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned there discovering you're an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
Can Can you tell me and the listeners a little bit more about that discovery and kind of what it means to you?
Sure. Well, we're going to go rewind a little bit further back.
We always need to rewind. We always rewind. Need to go back.
It's just, because this is the stuff that defines us, isn't it? And this is how we process everything until we probably pass away. Anyway, teenage years. Tell me anyone that doesn't have experience in the teenage years that define them. I want to meet that person. But I went through, my parents divorced when I was 12. And back in those days, divorce wasn't very common. So there was a lot of prejudice already towards me that I wasn't aware of, which meant that I kind of walked through my teenage years feeling a little bit like an outsider because I was shy to start off with. I didn't speak a lot. I didn't have many friends. Even though looking back now, I always made friends, but I didn't have like huge amount of friends. So, but I could never understand why I wasn't like everybody else. Why was it so hard for me to go up and approach people and talk to them? Why did I get tired so quickly and wanted to be by myself? And that kind of carried itself through, more or less through until about 5 or 6 years ago, when I literally discovered the term introvert. And I'm like, and the definition at that point, I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like me. And then the whole process obviously goes through, well, what does it mean for me? How do I fit in the spectrum of that whole thing? And it really helped me to become more comfortable with who I am and accept that I am the way I am. And I'm okay in this world. And today, my definition of introvert has changed again, which for me, it really is the way I manage my personal energy. That's literally how I would say introvert is for me right now.
Yeah. Because I think, because I agree with you in that I don't know whether the definition of introvert has changed or whether it's an understanding of what introversion has changed. But 6 years ago, when you discovered that you were an introvert and sort of understanding that, and I suppose, it's a label of sorts, but I did a podcast episode about labels quite a while ago now, and I find labels, for me personally, really useful because it helps me understand. It's not defining who I am, but it gives me some focus for finding out more and working out how some of the traits of maybe those labels apply to me. So I don't live my life by it, but for me it's helpful. So when you discovered introversion or being an introvert 6 years ago, what was your understanding of it then?
It explained to me why I don't react the same way that other people do, perhaps, that why I'm more quiet, why I get tired in certain social situations quickly, and how I process things too. That was another thing that helped me, go, okay, well, that's cool. That's cool. I am the way I am, and that's why. And then obviously there's whole different what's the word for it? I'm probably not the typical, what people call the typical introvert. People probably don't think I am one because I do a podcast. I hop on your podcast. I can chat with people pretty easily.
Yeah.
But throw me in a room with maybe 50 people and I can already feel my energy going down.
Yeah. So that's too much.
And then, so it's literally... So back then it was really helpful just as a starting point, and I met other women who are introverts, and just to see the difference in nuances in those women and where do I fit in. So it was really helpful to have that starting point in that little community to kind of do that self-discovery. That really, really helped back then. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so during lockdown, I realised that I actually was really loving spending a lot of time inside, not having to go out, not having to interact with people all the time, and realised I'm much more introverted than I probably would have realised. And a lot of my friends will not have that. I'm introverted at all. For you know, I've got a podcast. Yes, I'm quite. I can cope in social situations, but like you just mentioned, actually I can do that, but then I need to come back to be by myself, to recharge. And my understanding more of introversion now is that need to recharge by ourselves, whereas extroverts tend to recharge by being with people.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that's the longer explanation of it depends on, like, introvert needs to recharge differently than extroverts.
Yes.
That's really, in a nutshell, what it is. Has nothing to do with us being antisocial, or we just want to sit in a corner over there with a book and a nose in it.
Yeah.
No, we're a very sociable person. You should see me on the dance floor, you know, you should see me at a concert. Nothing to do with that. It's just when I go home, I'll be like, for the next day, it's just like, no, thanks.
So I think the idea of introvert being like the quiet, shy, retiring wallflower sitting on the edge of the dance floor, actually I don't think that really exists anymore. I mean, there are people who will prefer to be in that situation, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're an introvert. It's just a way, I think, for me, it's helped me the way I think it's helped you to actually work out what I'm like, so for you, what you're like in different situations, and how to manage your energy in those situations so that you can be at your best when you need to be.
Exactly right. Yeah, absolutely. And whilst, you know, those kind of labels, like you said before, they're really helpful for self-discovery, but eventually I think don't stick to that label. Don't be defined by it. Use it as a tool to help you, you know, be your best version of yourself.
Yeah. And like all things, actually, introversion, extroversion is all on a scale anyway, and we're all somewhere along that scale. And, you know, and maybe some days we're more one than the other as well. So you're absolutely right. It's certainly not a defining thing, but it can just help us work out what works for us, because, and I think you've already mentioned this, that even from a young age, you were comparing yourself to other people, other kids, and thinking, well, why am I not like that? As though it's something to want to be. But actually, and this is what I'm all about now, so you're right on brand here, thank you. You know, it's
you're
all
welcome.
about who am I, and what's the truest version of me? How can I be the truest version of myself? Because we are much more at ease and peace in that place, being the truest version of ourselves, so we can bring our best. And, you know, the ripple effect is then, you know, it is much bigger than even, you know, than we will ever know, really.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing I also think might be, I don't know if it's helpful for anybody listening to this, but one thing that I found helpful back in especially as a teenager, and still to this day, and hence my podcast, is find something that helps you process that. If that is, for me, it was always music. I've always had music there to help me process the emotions, and it was like my comfort blanket, so to speak. But there's probably other things. Some people love hiking. Other people, they just, you know, love nature, hugging a tree. Or I wouldn't go down the road of just eat food or whatever, because that's a whole nother thing. But something that's not, I don't like to use the word harmful either, but something that can just be there as a little bit of a sidekick.
Yeah.
To help you figure that out and not feel so lonely, perhaps, on the road.
Yeah, because it can, when we're busy comparing ourselves to others, and instead of appreciating what we've got, concentrating on what we perceive that we haven't got, in a way, that is a lonely place to be. And I've definitely been there. So yeah, it is. And thank you. Yeah, those tips. That music is what works for you. Writing actually is what works for me. I process actually as I'm writing. So a lot of my writing is, and I'm just realizing this as I'm writing it. In fact, I wrote a post yesterday that I was processing as I wrote. And talking. I process a little bit as I talk, but not as much as I do when I write. Music, like you say, nature, hiking, swimming. I've really got into a bit of cold water swimming lately, probably because it's summer here and it's not that cold. So we'll see how into cold water swimming I am in the winter. But actually, I find that just helps me concentrate on being in the moment, because I'm too busy breathing and catching my breath, that it clears my mind of the day-to-day stuff. And it's all kind of going on behind the scenes. It's like afterwards when I'm getting dressed, all these things, all these ideas sort of come, or solutions to things that I haven't been able to work out, because I've sort of given my mind a bit of a rest.
It's like you say, it's really sort of an individual thing, and that's part of figuring out what works for us. And luckily we both obviously figured that out pretty early on our journeys, which is amazing. And I wish everyone has that, something like that in their lives. Absolutely.
And I often took that. I wish I'd done. I figured it out quite early in my journey, but my journey started quite late. But I wasn't ready to figure it out before, I'm pretty sure. So I think everything happens as it's meant to, going back to a bit of woo.
Absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've walked through probably half of my life not quite knowing so many things, and it's literally the last probably 5 to 10 years where I've been given a lot of information. I'm only now digesting, going, okay, that all makes now sense. I know, well, I've really digested it, and I really know now why and what and how, and everyone's on their own journey, and that's okay. That's absolutely perfect. No one should think they're not on the right track. It doesn't matter how old you are. So let's all chill out.
Exactly. I love that. Everyone's on their own journey, and it doesn't matter how old you are and when you start. And that's always my message, actually. It's never too late.
Absolutely.
So your podcast obviously is really a big part of you. Am I right in saying this, that your podcast is a big part of you bringing you out and into the world and making your mark, and I don't know, I'm trying to think of some metaphor here, like I don't know, flipping the disc or moving to the or whatever. Let's forget that, because obviously that's not going to work. But this is you. Is this you stepping into being more of you, if that makes sense?
Absolute sense. Yes. And I'm honestly, it's for me, it's almost a little bit, I don't like to say therapy, but it's part of my growth journey that I'm trying to share with everybody. And like I said earlier on, it started off more from an introvert perspective. The solo episodes that I do, there probably is a lot of, I'm touching on a lot of introverted things, but I also have guests on, and for me, I just love it. It helps me speak out loud what's going on, and using music and lyrics, especially, to make sense and try to convey what's going on in my world, and hopefully other people then can understand that. And just seeing that there's so many people who totally agree with what I'm saying and doing, and they experience similar things, and they have amazing stories to tell where music plays such an immense part. For me, it's just the perfect combo for, my own growth, as well as hopefully sharing some useful tidbits with other people as well.
Yeah. I love your podcast. You do have some really interesting guests, and we all kind of have a music journey, actually, without even if we haven't thought about it. Because when I came on, I shared with you that when I wrote my book, that my book coach suggested I put a playlist together. And that playlist came together really, really easily, because there are, a good, there's lots of songs that have played a part in my life, but there were a good, I think 12 or 15 of them. I can't quite remember how many it was, 12 to 15 it was, of songs that had played real pivotal, had played an important part at pivotal times of my life. And listening to them again for, as part of the writing the book process, I could hear different things in them now, which is really interesting, because it's still a song I like. It's still a song that takes me back somewhere, but also it starts to mean different things at different times. And that's sort of, that just shows that we all interpret music, lyrics, our own way, and it's what they mean to us, not what the song is meant to mean, in a way, isn't it?
Yeah. There's this quote by Dave Grohl, and I can't obviously say the way he said it, but basically it means, he writes a song and he sings it, and then he's obviously in a stadium and there's 75,000 people singing it back for 75,000 different reasons.
Yeah, love that.
And that's a powerful quote. And I did a solo episode on that too, where I actually went back and listened to a song that I loved when I was about 12. And I looked at it and thought, what do I love about it today? And that's a beautiful way to see how you've grown as well. Yeah. It's so easy. You can just listen to it and go, oh, okay. Well, I loved it because of this back then. And now it means this to me and I still love it.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful thing. That's what music does.
Yeah, I remember, I can't remember the song, but I remember listening to that episode, and I think I'd shared with you that Against All Odds by Phil Collins, when I was younger, that meant one thing, and now I listen to it now, it means something completely different. And it's just really interesting. And when I came on, I shared the song that I wanted to talk about. I didn't realize, because I hadn't listened to your episode then, that was your song for this year.
Yes, that's right. Wasn't that a good coincidence?
It was. And that song, which is really interesting, and I'm bringing that up now because that's kind of what we're talking about here, because the song is This Is Me, from The Greatest Showman, and by Kiala, what's her surname?
Don't ask me.
No, Kiala, I'll remember in a moment. And that was, and I it probably means different things to both of us, but it's such a powerful song. And we talked in the episode, didn't we, about we'd both seen the clip of where she sang that song for the first time before the movie had even got the go ahead to be filmed. And it was a really raw,
it's
presentation. That's not the right word. It was a really raw, she sang it amazingly, and luckily somebody was recording it, so it got released, and it's just incredible. And I think that having seen that is what cemented that song for me, and then seeing it actually in the movie, where they're all, it just gets louder and bigger, and it's like, this is me. I don't care what you think about me. Well, I do care, but actually this is me, and I'm out here, and I'm doing it. And it's kind of a bit, up yours, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about that clip.
Me too.
If anyone, go and watch it if you haven't seen it yet. But it's basically ditching the label and saying, this is me, here I am, I'm doing my thing, and you know what, whatever you think of me, it's gonna just bounce off me, because I'm allowed to have space on this earth, and I'm taking it. Very profound, very, very, and like you said, this is my theme song for the year, which I always do. I always have a theme song and a theme word every year that I'm trying to incorporate in everything I do. And it's beautiful to have a song, because a lot of people just do the word. But I think connecting it with a song, it makes it more emotional. And you can connect more with it.
Yeah. And how is that working out this year?
Very good, actually. I always say it's like riding a wave almost. You go up and then you go down, and you go up and you go down. But having that there, it just makes me refocus and say, okay, well, you know what, you're having a bit of a downer. It's a downer phase, but it's okay because there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Focus on the song, what you intend to do this year, and just keep going. Don't hold back, and have faith that things will work out the way they should. And so far it has. It's had its challenges, but it seems to pick up again now. So it's amazing just having that there. It's like a little cozy blanket you can just put over yourself.
So you think
you
that
feel
song,
like you need a cuddle.
Yeah. So you think knowing that song is sort of there to support you this year in a way, that you feel that helps you?
Absolutely. I've done it 2 years in a row now.
That's amazing.
And last year I had Titanium from David Guetta.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to be like bulletproof and let things bounce off me. And this year I thought, okay, I've managed that last year. And this year I want to step into more of me and show the world more of me. So her song, and just seeing her not even in a movie, it really touched me. And I thought, yes, that's what I want to live by this year. Absolutely.
Oh, that's making me feel quite emotional. Passing
really, tissue.
Yeah, no, it's really that is really touching, and that doesn't. I don't want that to sound patronising. It's just. I can feel the energy of that, and it's very different to being bulletproof as well. I think that's what's got me. That you've gone from wanting to feel bulletproof to actually, I'm here. This is me.
And that's the beauty of having not just a word but also a song.
Yeah.
You put your playlist up, and then you can see from where you were to where you are now, and you can be really, really proud of yourself, because the emotions attached to the songs will still be there, but you're not going to be so involved or in it anymore. You can just look back and go, yeah, I'm actually freaking awesome. I've done all this. I've come that far. Can you imagine where I can go from here?
Exactly, and you are freaking awesome.
Thank you.
I just think what you're doing is really brilliant. And actually, as we're talking, it's funny. Like you say you can listen to songs and actually go, okay, but that was then, sort of thing. What is the song that's going through my head is a song I know that you know and you like, is Hold On by Wilson Phillips. And that used to be, and I'm pretty sure you've talked about that song in an episode. That's how I know you like.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. And that used to be a massive song for me. Just hold on. It was very much a sort of desperate type of song, really. Just hold on for one more day and it will be okay. And sitting here, that's going through my head, and it's very much, I still like the song, but it's still, I remember the Philippa who needed to hold on one more day. And actually, I am now a very different Philippa, and I don't feel that just hold on for one more day energy. That's not to say I'm not going to need it in the future. And I've got that in my, in my bag of tricks of things to pull out when I need a bit of telling to just hang on, and better times around the corner. But it is, it's funny how that is going through my head, and where's that come from? And that is definitely because me and you are here together, and I know that song means something to you as well.
It's incredible. I mean, just when you talked about Hold On, there's another song that people who listen to my podcast are like, oh my god, I listened to this solo episode where you talked about Numb from Linkin Park.
Yeah.
And that kind of resonates, but that's because partly because I bring it up and I talk about it, but it's because Linkin Park wrote a song that people can resonate with.
Yeah,
it's the sounds, the music, but also the lyrics. And in a way, it's, a lot of people might think, oh yeah, but it's been written about a teenage girl. No, you take it as you need it. It's your medicine. Take it. Don't, just because it was written about something else doesn't mean you can't take it and use it for yourself as a little help.
Yeah.
And that's the power of music. It just blows my mind.
Yeah. And we all feel it. We all feel it in a different way. And like you say, it doesn't matter who the song is written about, for what it's supposed to mean. One of my all-time favorite songs is Crazy by Seal, and I don't know what that means to lots of other people, and it's from quite a dark time in my life, actually, but I know what I take from that. And I don't even really want to know what anybody else takes from it, to be honest, because I certainly don't want to start that comparison thing. And I just know that at times that is a song that has meant something to me and still does now. And it's much more about us. And that's going back to acknowledging who we are and what is good for us and what things mean to us, and staying grounded in what it means for us and not being wavered, by what it might mean to somebody else.
Yeah. And that's what we need more right now, is people who get comfortable in who they are and are authentic and not fake, not, trying to hide away. It can be really hard to put yourself out there. Trust me, I've been there. I didn't want to be on camera for ages. I didn't want to talk like this for years and years, even though one of my childhood dreams was to be a radio DJ. Here we go. So these
you look like a radio DJ now with all that with your backdrop. You look like a radio DJ, so you're living the life now.
I'm starting to live the life. Yeah. But who knows? I might end up at a radio station one day. You never know.
Oh, and why not? And why not?
Why not?
And
you never know.
No. And this kind of brings me sort of onto when we begin to work out who we really are, and we begin to understand who we really are, and step into a much more truer, authentic version of ourselves, and sort of throw away that need for comparison and need to be like anybody else. What I feel is then really important is to work out what brings us joy, and joy in the everyday, those little moments that we can sort of that we can take every day and sort of fill our cup up, or whichever metaphor you want to use. And what sort of things bring you joy?
Well, music. I know this is very, very broad, but obviously music is my best friend. It's my companion that I have through life, and through music I'm able to actually bring joy to others through my podcast, and that in itself is just incredible. I've never thought that would happen for me, even though obviously I dreamt about it, and now I'm stepping into it. Every day there is something, there's a little comment from someone saying, this song was on the radio and I thought of you. Oh my God, joyful moment, Or someone actually messaged me the other day saying, I was just typing, what did she say? I was typing these two words and she put the at, like trying to add someone, and my name came up because that's what she constantly types about. I'm like, okay, so obviously you must talk about music a lot because I'm coming up.
Yes.
It's these little things that, and obviously hearing the incredible stories that my guests share. I mean, there's overcoming obstacles, and music being there to literally give them that oomph to not give up, to not give in. If it's a health journey, if it's dark moments in their life, just that. I mean, I don't know. I'm just feeling so blessed to be able to do this and meet everyone as well. I mean, just meeting all these incredible people who do incredible things in the world. It feels like this ripple effect that's going on, and it all has to do with music. So for me, that's every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
No, that's amazing. And that's largely about connection, isn't it? You're making connections with people via music. So it's quite incredible to have this privilege, in a way, of being able to do things that we love doing, and putting it out into the world for whoever needs to hear it.
Yeah. And I do remember way back, one of my coaches that I've had, she said to me, look, not forget about it completely, but don't put your focus on numbers when it comes to your passion, especially with podcasts. So many people go on about, oh, I've had that many downloads, or so many people are listening to it.
Yeah.
You just need to reach one person and make their day. And that in itself is my job done. I can go, mic drop, I'm out.
Yeah.
That's
totally agree.
That's all there is to it,
Yeah, I totally agree. And just when I don't know about you, but I tend, just when I think, oh, is anybody actually really listening? Or, I mean, I love doing this. So, I'm not doing, I get something out of it. But I do sometimes think, oh, is anybody listening? And I know there are some people who listen every week, and to anybody who's listening, and you're one of those people, thank you so much. But it really means a lot. I'm not doing it I'm not doing it I'm not doing it because I want people to listen, because that's the only reason for me to do it. I'm doing it because I get something out of doing it as well. But equally, it's nice to know that other people are listening. And every now and again, I get a random message completely out of the blue from somebody who says, I've just listened to all your episodes and I'm really enjoying it. One person messaged me and said, you're giving me hope that things will get better. And I'm like you say,
beautiful,
job done. That really makes it worthwhile. So, it's a privilege to be able to reach people doing something that we love to do as well, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you have that in your life, then there's always, I don't know, it's just beautiful. It's amazing and incredible. So
it is.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good place to end, really. Thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a joy to speak to you again. And obviously we've talked a lot about music, but a lot about other things. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Philippa, and I appreciate your time as well.
You're welcome. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Meeting of Minds podcast. You can find this podcast in all the usual places. Please tell your friends. Please subscribe. And if you have a moment, I'd be really grateful if you could rate and review, as it helps other people find us and helps me spread the messages of empowerment and positivity that I'm really passionate about. If you want to find out more about me, you can visit my website, www.safeandsupported.co.uk. Until next time, bye.